Hi, I'm Cephas Stokely, and I'll be doing my informative speech on equal opportunity. I'm currently in a exercise here in Korea, so it's very difficult for me to scrounge up 3 different audience members, but I was able to make it happen, and here they are. 1, 2, and 3. In case you were wondering if they are ghosts, then you are correct. They are ghosts, and they are here to be my audience members. Now, like I said, I'll be doing my speech on equal opportunity. The main thing to listen to here during this speech is protected characteristics. I'll be explaining the different types of discrimination, and I'll be painting pictures to use examples to back up my actual information. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first type of discrimination is direct discrimination, and that's defined as an individual being treated less favorable than another because of a protected characteristic that they have. I have personally been directly discriminated against. There was a member in my leadership chain who treated a certain member better than me because of the fact that they hung out, which is a problem in itself because that goes into an example of an unprofessional relationship. But because they were friends, this particular individual would get in trouble and he would not be held accountable at all. I myself have a very clean record in the Air Force, but because we weren't friends, he was always trying to, the said leadership member was always trying to hold me accountable for things that I didn't even do. And of course, I went to my leadership who knew and knows my work ethic, and it ended up working in my favor in the end. However, that was a form of direct discrimination, and the person who was friends with the leadership member ended up leaving with a less than favorable record, if that makes sense. Okay, moving on to the next subject, indirect discrimination. And that's defined as a practice or standard that's applied equally across the board, but you may have a hard time dealing with the standard because of a protected characteristic. An example of that is someone who cannot adhere to the standards or has a hard time doing it because of their religion. So say, for example, a member is Muslim or any kind of religion, and they have to pray every Saturday on their hands and knees at 9 in the morning, and their job calls them in on Saturday to have a job where you have to stand. And if you sit down or lay down, you get in trouble for it. That's something that's against their religion per se, and they're not supposed to be doing it because at 9 o'clock it's going to prevent them from doing their prayer. So that's a form of indirect discrimination. My next subject is discrimination by association, and I'm sure this one's pretty obvious on what it is. It's pretty much when you're being discriminated against because of your association with someone who has a protected characteristic. Anybody who has a career probably has those friends, or even if it's just a friend, who still lives their life like they're in high school. They're not doing anything, they're probably doing some kind of drugs or alcohol, and you don't want them to be around your job or career because you know that if your leadership sees that, they're going to discriminate against you, which isn't right, but it happens. And I don't agree with that, but that's one reason why I keep my work at work and my home at home. I don't mix and match the two at all. My next subject is perception discrimination, and that's defined as a person who receives less favorable treatment because of the way they possess a protected characteristic, and that applies whether it's true or not. I personally have definitely dealt with this personally, and that's because of the fact that I like jewelry. The Air Force says you can have a maximum of 3 rings. I wear 3 because I like gold. My hair, they've tried to say that my hair is out of regulation, but it's not. That's a different battle that I fought, and I won that one. Well, I wouldn't say I won, but I was able to keep moving forward. And I also have a shaving waiver, and a lot of people don't agree with shaving waivers. I was actually denied a job as a recruiter because of the fact that I have a shaving waiver. My package was very, very strong. I had all kinds of letters of recommendation. My record is clean, but I was ultimately turned down because of the fact that I have a shaving waiver. So that's perception discrimination. Harassment is the next subject, and that's violating a person's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment for another person. I had an old supervisor back when I was in the Airman who was an ex-TI, and she dealt with all her problems right or wrong by yelling and chewing out her airmen. And when I say yelling, I mean yelling. We had a good relationship, but her other troops had a hard time dealing with her because of this. And that was not a way to do it, and she ended up losing a stripe and getting kicked out for it. So harassment is definitely not tolerable, and it will be handled accordingly if you have good leadership. The last subject is victimization, and that's someone who committed a protected act, and now they're being treated less favorable for it. So if somebody went to the Equal Opportunity Office and filed a complaint because they're being discriminated against, and now their managers are treating them less favorable, that's an example of victimization. The Air Force defines equal opportunity as treatment for all members irrespective of their race, color, religion, national origin, sex, or the case of civilian employees, age and handicap. Their tech school even has a subject on white privilege, but that's another story. Overall, equal opportunity is very important across the board, and it's something that needs to be taken seriously. If you ever feel like you're being discriminated against, make sure you bring it up with your chain of command and you handle it accordingly. Don't just sit back and allow it to happen, because it can ruin you mentally, physically, and even emotionally and spiritually. So take care of yourself. I appreciate your time. Have a good day.